Hi, my name is Dalton Huhn. I work here at the Eastern Agricultural Research Station. We're here in our sheep barn today. We do a lot of cattle, sheep, and forage research here at the station. Today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about our culling practices in our sheep flock. So we maintain anywhere from 300 to 350 ewes on a yearly basis. We lamb in two groups. We lamb a spring group, which are what we have right here. And then we lamb a fall group starting in September. So we're here at the tail end of our lambing season. We started the end of January, and we lambed roughly 160 ewes in about a month. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the culling cycle we have on our ewes. So our main objective in our sheep flock is we don't believe in second chances. Our sheep have one job, and that's to raise a lamb. So if they can't do their job, then they have to hit the road. So our culling begins at our preg check. So we use, if they're open, we sort them off, and they go to the sale directly after the preg check. From there, we start into lambing, and that's when we begin evaluating the ewes again. So our main focus is for that ewe to raise a lamb. If she does not own the lamb, has a bad odor, we mark her as a call and she goes. So I'll go into a little bit more depth to that. So as a ewe lambs, we bring her into our lambing room, we put the ewe and lamb pair into a jug, and that's where we start to evaluate them. So what we look for is the ewe owning the lamb. If she has no mothering ability, then we pay closer attention to them, obviously. So from there, our approach is less hands-on. We don't want to have to touch these sheep if we don't have to. So if we have a ewe that is a good mother, milking well, we should never have to touch the lamb other than to process them, tag and band, and then vaccination later on. So we pay close attention to the lambs in the lambing jugs, and if we have one that's not as thrifty, we'll go in, we'll check them out, we'll check the bag on the ewe, and usually that's where a lot of our problems are, is mastitis based. So we don't have time here for half baggers per se. So our objective is to get the ewes bred, to get the lambs on the ground, and for the ewes to do all the work. So if we have to bottle raise lambs, the ewe has to go. So if a ewe is half bag, we mark them as a call. If they can raise the lamb, we leave the lambs on, and then we will sort those off at weaning time and get rid of the ewes then. Now, there are some cases where we have ewes that have no milk, which that means bottle lambs, so those will go in a separate pen, and we'll usually get rid of those as soon as they're dried up. Now, as we go on, if a ewe does not have a lamb on at weaning, she hits the road. So basically, if there's no human error in the ewe losing a lamb, then it's her fault, and we believe she has to go. So most of our culling evaluation is right at the time of lambing, whether it's half bag, no bag, poor mothering ability. That's what we base most of our culling off of. Now further on down the road towards weaning, if we have some older ewes that aren't milking as heavy and the lambs just don't shine and they're not as thrifty, then we'll go through, sort those off, and those ewes will be sorted and called as well, just for the sheer fact that they're just not able to perform as well as what they were able to at one time. So another factor that goes into who we call and when we call is vaginal and rectal prolapses. So that's another thing that we deal with here. We have a few vaginal prolapses a year, and that's just another thing that we don't have time to deal with in the whole second chance mindset. Right here we have an example of a ewe. She had a vaginal prolapse early on in gestation, about a month and a half before lambing, which shouldn't happen. Another double strike against her is she's a bad mother. So as you can see, maybe she's got a blue X on her back, and that's how we mark our calls. Not so much for later on down the road when we sell them for the buyers to know, but mainly just for us as an identification piece. So if this ewe gets turned out with another group of 50 ewes, at weaning time, we can pick her out and she doesn't get biased, and we find out she was a call next year this time. So that's another piece that we don't deal with, is if they prolapse, they're gone. Okay, so a big part of our research is our livestock, obviously, and records and animal identification is very important for that. So we keep very good records on our livestock. So here I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about our lambing sheet and everything that we keep track of. So these are pre-made before lambing season. This column here we have UID number, and then we have different columns. So how we do it is the day she lambs, we put the date, single, twin, triplet, how many lambs she has, and then when we tag lambs, we put lamb tag numbers over here and sex of the lamb. Now out here in the notes section, that's where we keep track of important pieces of information. So this is where we keep track of our ewes that are called, our transplant lambs, bottle lambs, such of that nature. So like if we have a ewe that has a stillborn lamb, lost a lamb, this is also where we keep track of that. Okay, so now I'll talk about how we evaluate our replacements and how we determine what stays and what goes. So we're able to call our older ewes a little harder than some people might be able to, just because we have the numbers coming up and we have the numbers to choose from as replacements. So what we look for mainly in our replacements, ideally we'd like to keep twins and triplets. In theory, they're going to have twins and triplets down the road. More lambs equals more money. That's not always the case. Sometimes we have to keep singles just to keep our numbers. So we shoot for 50 to 60 ewe lambs out of each lambing group. So what we'll do when we go through and evaluate those is we look for our big, strong, healthy ewe lambs, no structural problems, no health problems, things of that nature, all your common sense things. So keeping this many replacements allows us to call our older ewes a little harder. You know, if we have some older ewes that maybe are starting to go back on milk that could probably last another lambing season, if we don't feel like we're going to be able to manage those appropriately as they need to be managed, we can go ahead and get rid of those because we have the young ewes coming up. So that allows us to call our older ewes a little harder and keep our flock younger and stronger. Okay, all right, moving on to our RAM criteria for culling. Much like our ewes, our rams have one job. If they can't breed ewe, then they can't stay. So our ram culling mainly happens at our breeding soundness exam. Now since we have two breeding groups, the spring and the fall, that means we give BSEs to our rams twice a year. So it's not based off of age, it's not based off of performance so much, it's based off of if they have the correct motility and morphology at that semen show. So that's how we call our rams. So there's no age limit per se on the rams. We use them as long as they are viable. So adding on to that, we try to use no more than 40 ewes per ram. Last year we bred this group of 160 spring lambing ewes with 4 rams, which is right at 40 ewes per ram. Now coming up, we kept a few ram lambs 2 breeding seasons ago, so they'll be mature. So we will turn out 8 or 9 rams with a group this same size. So again, our ram culling criteria is based solely off of performance. If they can't breed the ewes and get the ewes covered, then we can't keep it. We don't want weak semen. We don't want ewes strung out for 3 months. We want lambs in a month window. So it might be a lot of work in that month, but the sooner we can get those lambs out of the ewes and the quicker, the better for us. So we want to get these lambs out of the ewes as quick as possible, and we want the lambing group as tight as possible, just as a time and a marketing thing, more or less. So a lot on the time and labor is, if we could spend 1 month down here and lamb really hard, rather than spend 3 months down here lambing off and on, we want to just come down here and get the ewes pumped out as fast as we can. We have a lot of other things going on here, so the less time we have to spend down here, the better in terms of time and labor. The other part of it is marketing ability. So if we can get one uniform lamb crop, that'll make it easier for us to sell when the time comes. So we don't have to manage them as 3 different groups weaning this age lambs at this time and having 2 or 3 other sets on down the line. If we can, at all possible, we'll lamb everything at one time, or wean everything at one time in one big group. We might have a few stragglers, but the tighter of a lambing window we can have, the better. Okay, so I'm going to talk about our ram sourcing a little bit now. So all of our replacement ewe lambs are homegrown. They are born and raised here on the farm. So our main outcross comes from our rams. So when the time comes when we're getting low on ram numbers, ram power, we go and buy. Now we have a very good relationship with the local producer, and we have a very good relationship with them because we know that we're going to go buy healthy, productive animals. So we think that's really important to have that relationship and be able to know that you're buying something that's going to do its job, that's going to be healthy, that's going to be able to breed ewes later on. Come here, buddy. Yeah, he's a funny looking sheep.
They got some weird ones here. Okay, excuse me.
That one there hasn't landed yet. She's a call for sure.